Alright, so we're on a 2007 Ford Focus, doing a little bit of work on it here. We're putting rear shocks on it. That's what this video is going to be about. I have some other stuff I need to do to it, but we're just going to shoot a video real quick on the rear shocks. Pretty easy to get to. You should be able to do it at home, no problem, with some basic hand tools and a jack stand. First thing you'll do is pop the trunk and get to the top shock bolt. Well, that's what I do first anyway. They should come loose, hopefully. Sometimes they don't, and then there's other things we can do to get them loose. But we'll go in and see what happens with this one, and then I'll cover some of the things you can do if yours won't come out or stuck or whatever. Usually that nut will just spin. Sometimes that nut will just spin on there, and then it won't come loose. But since it's in the trunk, it's not really out in the elements. It should come out. Usually it's the fronts we have more problems with that on. But we'll get the trunk open and get up in there and get that top bolt in on the shock. If you have a wagon, it's going to have different shocks. This is covering the sedan, the four-door. So if you have a wagon, it's not going to. This won't. It's a little bit different on the top. So it's the same on the bottom and different on the top. So anyway, we'll get in the trunk real quick, peel the carpet back, and see what we got. All right, so you're just going to open your trunk up and peel your carpet back. It's going to be up like this. I'm just going to peel this back or move it out of the way. Then you got a 14mm nut in there. I'm going to go ahead and use an impact. You might be able to do it with a regular ratchet and let it come off. I don't know, but I always use impact, so I'm just going to use an impact real quick. And that's all there is to it for the top. So you're going to pull your washer off and your little rubber. Probably leave that in there if it's stuck in there like this one. And go ahead and take it loose. Now if yours is stuck or rusted or won't come off for whatever reason, you can put a socket like this on there, an extension, and work it back and forth, and it'll actually break off if you're having that kind of issue. Or if you don't have an impact and you're using the ratchet, it's taking forever, and say it spins in there and you can't get it off, just put a long extension or a long socket like this on there, an extension, as long as you can get to fit in there, and just pull it down back and forth and it'll snap off. So that's another way to do it if you don't have an impact or can't get to it. So I got the top off. I got that bush in here, it's kind of seized in there, not really worried about it. It'll come off when we pull the bottom out. So we'll go to the bottom real quick and get that off, and then switch this thing out. Alright, while I'm in here, I'm just going to zap off this other side real quick and get it loose. That one did spin a little bit inside. I thought maybe it wasn't going to come off, but it eventually came off. But like I said, you will run into that sometimes where it'll spin. And then either break them off or do what you have to do with it. Alright, so I'm under the car right here. Is a shock perch right here. Yeah, this is a 15mm bolt. And I did come over here behind the bolt and use a torch to kind of heat it up because it was extremely tight, and I think I got it loose now with some heat. It didn't take a whole lot of heat, but it definitely helped it. It looks like someone's already, this bolt looks like it's been bent or something, the way it's coming out. But just take that bolt out, and then the shock should kind of, I don't know if I want to touch it yet. I had to heat it up pretty good. There you go. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull the shock out. And that's the bolt right there, 15 mil. And like I said, I did use a torch and heat up this side of the bolt where the nut's at. The nut's welded to the frame, you can't take that off. But just get a torch and heat it up a little bit. And that should knock some of the rust loose and help you get it off. Otherwise, it's going to be a big pain. And it still took quite a bit of pressure to get it loose, even with the heat. But after you get a few turns, it starts to go. So this side actually looks rustier than the other side. So I'm going to just go ahead, before I even try to loosen, I'm going to go ahead and heat this up and try to knock get some of this rust heat up. So I'll just do that for about a minute or two, and then we'll try to break it loose. Alright, so I did about a minute or two. Go ahead and this thing should back out now. There we go, second side. So we'll just drop the shock out, and then heat's definitely your friend on these. They're pretty seized in there with the rust and stuff. So we'll go ahead and drop the shock out, and then we'll start putting the new ones in. Alright, so we got the new shocks in. They actually sent me the wrong shocks the first time. This is the right shock for the sedan. You can see it's got the end where you took that nut off, and actually got shock. This is for the wagon, so we had to get the right shocks. And you can see on this one, it's the same on both ends almost. There's no stud that goes through and catches the nut. So if you have a wagon, that's what you need. If you don't have a wagon, you need the one that we got here. And what you're going to do is put one of these washers on there first, and then you're going to put the fatter end. There's a fat end and a skinny end. You're going to put the fat end on this towards the washer. Then you're going to run this up through the trunk and put the skinny end down on this, and then the nut. And this is strapped in right now to keep the strut compressed. You can put the bottom in and then kind of guide this to the top, and then take a pair of side cutters, whatever, and snap this off, and then just guide it up into the trunk. So we'll go over there and do that real quick and get this thing back on the road. Alright, so I got the car jacked up in the middle of the frame with the big jack. I got two jack stands under there, of course. And when you take your shock out, your suspension here will drop down pretty far. And to get it back in straight, you want to put a jack under this arm right here, your lower arm, right where your coil spring's at. And that'll kind of straighten out the shock. So I got the shock right here started, the bottom bolt started. And right now it's just started, it's not tight yet. And I'm just going to cut this, and then that'll push this shock, release the shock. And I'll just guide it into that hole right there, and then once it's in that hole, I'll go ahead and tighten the bottom. So all I got is a pair of side cutters here. I'm just going to cut it, and that'll release the shock. And you can see right there, it's going right up into that hole. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll cut this off with the side cutters, the rest of this off, and then we'll tighten this bottom bolt here, and then we'll move back to the top. So this bottom bolt, you just want to run it in until it's pretty tight. So that's tight, and still got another piece I got to cut off right here, and then we'll move to the top, and we'll just torque that down. Now the top, you don't want to get super tight. You just want to kind of compress those bushings into the, kind of puff them out a little bit. So, but anyway, I'm going to cut the rest of the string off here, and then this bottom's done, and we'll move to the top real quick. All right, you can see with that suspension jacked up, and that steel string release, or it's almost like a hanger type material. With that release, there's plenty of room in here to start your nut and bolt, put your rubber bushing in. And like I said on this, I'm going to use an impact to pull it down, but we're not going to just hammer on it. We're going to kind of watch it slowly, and once it gets to where it starts to compress and get a little fatter, right there, it's probably about as far as I would go with it. You just want it seated in there and kind of puffed out and kind of even with this washer here. So once you get to that level there, there's no reason to go any farther. So you just put your panel back up and then you're good to go. So that's pretty much all it is on these. It's pretty simple. The hardest part is going to be that bottom bolt. It's probably going to be rusted. You're going to have to heat it up or sit there with the big pry bar. And I would still heat it up. That way you don't snap the bolt off. You don't want to snap that bolt off because that nut is welded to the frame on the other side. And if that happens, then you're going to have to do all kinds of shenanigans to get that out. So the best case scenario, I think, is just to get yourself a torch and heat it up a little bit. They sell pretty cheap torches. You could probably get the whole setup for like 15 bucks. And if you don't have one at home, and this is a pretty simple job. Just basic hand tools and jacks and stuff, you should be good to go. So anyway, that's all it is for the rear shocks on this Focus. He hasn't want the fronts done. So all I got left, I did some other stuff to it. All I got left now is the oil and put the right shock on. It's good to go. So thanks for watching. As always, God bless.